in the UK, I actually personally experience winter depression, especially when I lived in the UK.
That's a thing.
Because in winter, I was working 9 to 5, more often longer. And then you go to work, it's dark.
It's dark.
You leave work.
It's dark.
This is where Lagos meets London. Where Peckham boys chilling Osaka, London. As Muritala Mohammed, Heathrow is where London Bridge links Third Milan Bridge via Go Slow. This is where Lagos meets London.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Lagos Meets London. I'm Alice, and today we have with us the founders of Akoma Health. Before we do that, OJ, I also have OJ with me here. OJ.
Hi guys, it's your boy OJ. If you still don't know, get to know.
Yeah, as I was saying, we have with us, we're meant to have two of the founders, but right now we have one and she will be joining us later on. We have the founders of Akoma Health with us here. And this is such an amazing, exciting collaboration. I'll tell you a bit more about that later. But Akoma Health, what is that about? Akoma Health, I've done my research, I've looked into you guys, and I know that you guys are committed in building awareness about mental health and also connecting Africans to high quality, vetted and culturally conscious mental health professionals that will, can offer support and to help them in fulfilling and healthy and fulfilling life, really.
Exactly.
Did I capture that right?
Yeah.
And also affordable, which is very key to our demography. So we've got Nii here. Nii is the COO, Chief Operating Officer of Akoma Health. Welcome, Nii. Welcome to Lagos Meets London. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for the introduction.
I would just I wouldn't go too much into your background because what we're here to discuss Akoma, not Nii himself. Mm-hmm. So the first thing we would like to Alice is gonna speak about how both collaborations tie into each other. Yeah. Just for anyone listening.
Mm-hmm. So as OJ said, we're very excited about this collaboration. We started this collaboration with Akoma Health because, we are Lagos Meets London. The mission statement especially is to merge both cities, not just entertainment wise. We also want to touch upon the fact that we've both lived in both cities, and right now we have a huge influx of migration from Lagos to Nigeria to London. And obviously when you are moving, as we were talking earlier on, we have people dispersing all over the world, people leaving their families, and this will obviously have mental impact on you, leaving from all you've ever known to moving to a city where you don't really know much. And right now, the UK, London especially, is experiencing a huge influx of that and more to come, as we've heard. And the reason why we're so excited for this collaboration is because we obviously want to have these conversations. We don't just want to have the good times, the gossips. We want to have these important, sensitive conversations about mental health. And we're just trying to let you know that these are things that you can get. It's available. It's out there. We're trying to bring the awareness to you guys. It's affordable. Akoma Health. We'll get more into the details about Akoma Health, but this is the reason why we're so excited to do this collaboration and to work with you guys. But yeah.
All right, guys. Just before we get into it, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're also available on all audio streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere you can listen to your podcast. All right, Nii, I'm just gonna ask, what bettered Akoma Health?
Sorry?
What bettered Akoma Health?
I think the simple answer is, I guess there are two answers, right? So the first thing is the shared experience of Melanie and me, especially coming out of COVID. I always tell the story. We've been friends for the last 10 years. And she was, at that point, living in California doing her MBA. And I've been in Lagos for the last couple of years, and I literally never go out. So when she was around, we decided to meet up at a friend's house party. By the way, that was the one night that I went out. This was 2021. the one night that I went out throughout COVID, and I got COVID.
Oh wow!
For the first time,
COVID was waiting for you outside.
Literally, it was literally waiting for me. It was literally waiting for me outside. But we'd been discussing our experiences. So we basically caught up that night. We discussed our experiences. On her side, trying to find a therapist in the US that understood her, not just as a woman, but as a Nigerian woman, and understanding that context in the recommendation.
Is that really important as a Nigerian woman?
I mean, from my point of view, I think she would say so. I mean, she always...
No, I mean, is that important to your mission statement as...
Oh, right, sorry, yes.
Akoma Health?
Yes, there's a lot of value, even beyond the sort of objective clinical measures. It's very important that these recommendations are given like within context.
Right.
So, for example, a classic example is, just the way in which we handle relationships with family members. And how that's very different in a Nigerian context, for example.
Absolutely.
Even within the Nigerian context, the different sort of cultural lenses that influence, like, your relationship with your parents, for example, your aunties and your uncles. They're things, other people might be able to do culturally, but it's very difficult and strange for you to do in the Nigerian context. So
let's give an example.
I mean, I think relationships with parents are always kind of are always kind of tough, especially when you're sort of growing up and you're sort of becoming more independent and you're becoming your own person. I think the way you set a boundary is potentially, I think it's important that we're able to set a boundary with our relatives and our parents. But how you go about doing that can be very different. I think, culturally, in a Nigerian sense, like, you have to be a bit savvy about how you do that, because there's a need to be very respectful to all the people.
Respect is important.
But that shouldn't, take over the fact that you need to take care of yourself as well. So just, and that's just one particular example. But having that in mind as you go through these relationships, and having someone that is also aware of that and is able to give you recommendations, not just from a clinical point of view, but from an experiential point of view as well, can be super useful, because ultimately you're going to therapy to learn skills to cope with challenges that you're having, and you also want feedback on how you're implementing them as well. And your therapist is a guide through a lot of these things. And so that context is really important. And so she shared that experience, and I thought that was so insightful. And I too was also looking for help throughout COVID in Nigeria, but I had the problem that many people have of, like, where do I even start looking? And even if I find someone, how do I know that, like, I can trust them? Or my information will not be, in a Twitter thread.
Everyone's afraid of ending up on a Twitter thread.
You don't want to be the person, you don't want to be the person trending.
But some people do.
Maybe. And we, but even beyond that, so that's the first point. And even beyond our personal and shared experiences, we realized through speaking to people, and interviewing people, that, like, we were not alone. There were loads of people that had the same challenges that we're having. And so we got together and we said, why don't we just make this solution? Why don't we create the solution? And we spent, the next couple of months continuing those interviews with people, thinking about how we would find psychologists, therapists to help people, thinking about how we would create our product, a platform, thinking about who the right partners we would actually be. And that was basically how we started. It's just, like, for me, it's like, it's almost like a blur. But it's been, I guess, we've been working on this. We launched officially in November last year, but we've been working on this for about like a year now. And I literally remember, the first few conversations that we're having, when she was still in the US, I was in Lagos, like, there was like an 8-hour time difference, and I'm like, it's 4 a.m. here. This is
half
insane.
asleep.
and I was still working full time then, so I was like, I go to bed like 4 a.m. and then wake up at like 9.
Wow.
So it was
running on autopilot.
But we're super excited to be working on something new, and there's all of that adrenaline. So that was a long-winded way of answering your question.
It's very clear, like the picture, like you get a clearer picture of what Better did and why and what it's about. So which brings us nicely to the next. So mentioning what you said about how am I so sure whatever I'm saying or whatever I'm speaking about is not going to end up on blogs or on a Twitter thread. How is Akoma run as an organization? Because you're the chief operations officer, just to like give people assurance to say, yes, you can, if you decide to pick us, this is how our organization is run.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to just say and note is quality is really important to us. And quality really starts from who do we even consider appropriate to be a therapist on our platform.
Right.
And
sorry to cut you short there.
Sure.
In terms of your therapists, are they available just in Nigeria or all over Africa or worldwide?
Sure. So just to clarify, our services are online and virtual.
Okay.
So you can
access from
you
anywhere
can
in the
access
world.
from anywhere in the world.
Okay. Right.
A lot of our therapists are based in Nigeria and are
Okay.
Nigerian, but of course they can take sessions with people elsewhere.
That's exactly why I was asking
Exactly,
for the
yeah.
time differences. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do have a growing list of therapists that are based in other countries from different cultural backgrounds across Africa. And so people that might want to speak with someone that might be closer to where they're from,
Yeah.
in a cultural sense, are able to go ahead with that. But
Okay.
to answer you, quality is really the fundamental thing there. And for us, it was really important to make sure that we weren't just bringing on anyone. We had a very structured way of thinking about where do we even start looking for the pool of people to even interview and assess to be on our platform. And so, for example, that looks like working closely with professional organizations that not just vet and license these therapists, but also have ongoing training for them as well, in parallel to whatever else they might do on their own. And so we've been able to identify a number of these professional bodies across various African countries, and we formed close relationships with them as a sort of pipeline for our clinical psychologists. But even beyond that, we have a very thorough interview process where we're not just looking for the skills that you should have from a technical point of view as a clinical psychologist, but also the empathy and the openness to speak to anyone without judgment.
Yeah.
And so that's the first layer and answer to the question.
Because I always feel like the word judgment is a big reason why a lot of people don't speak up. A lot of people don't even look to get help.
Right.
Right. What other stigmas are there when it comes to mental health?
I mean, I think there are many, I think that there's many stigmas as there are people, right?
Yeah.
I was having a discussion with someone earlier today about postpartum depression. And I think that's one of those Is that even a thing in Nigeria? Let's just be honest. Do you think they recognize that
What is like recognize what?
Postpartum depression?
I think there's more awareness about it amongst a certain group of Nigerians now, like working.
Yeah, but widely in the wide.
No, not in the wider sense. There's still more that needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, I think, of course, as with many mental health challenges, there's a lot of awareness there.
Yeah.
But I picked that one specifically because, of course, I don't know what it's like to be pregnant or to have children, but I can only imagine the stigma of having a mental health challenge in somewhere like in anywhere, to be honest.
Yeah.
The stigma that comes with having a mental health challenge, but also on top of that, being a new mother, for example, and having a child that you have to take care of, or not feeling like you're fully present and able to take care of the child the way that you would want to, and you would hope to. And so I think, and I think that's one of. And of course, there's no way of ranking which stigma is more than another, but I think that's just one very striking example. Of course, there's a thing with men and being comfortable talking about feelings. And
I was going to mention that.
And things like that. But again, I think that the more we use the language around sort of mental health, whether people are accurately labeling the challenge that they have, I think it's important for us to sort of start using the language of mental health to describe our emotions, our feelings, and I think that's the first step.
Do you think we need to start gearing towards that direction of expressing our emotions by labeling it mental health?
Sorry, so what exactly do you mean?
So you just said we need to start expressing these emotions and actually just labeling it.
Right. So I mean, I think that being able to label your emotions might be hard because
how so?
Because, for example, you might know that you feel a certain way, but you might not necessarily know why you feel that way.
Right. Okay.
And the combination of those two things might be how you actually put a label on how you're feeling and your mood at that time. And so what I was saying was that it's important to get to the point where you're able to describe or at least share your experiences and share how you're feeling. And through those sort of initial sort of baby steps, you get to the point where you can, and it doesn't have to be formal support. I think even speaking to a trusted friend, someone that, you know, you can speak openly with, that understands you and is a shoulder that you can sort of lean on, essentially, is a very helpful step in sort of feeling better, feeling like you can cope, and sort of getting comfortable with using language of I feel weird, or I mean, I'm trying to find general ways of saying, you know, I don't feel great, and then maybe through a conversation your friend can tease out what might actually be wrong with you. Is a really good way of starting to create that culture around positive feelings around mental health, using the language, and so by language of mental health, I really mean getting to a place where we're comfortable discussing our feelings, and ultimately getting to a point where we can, you know, put a label on some of these things and start to work backwards in terms of figuring out how we can cope with them.
Another thing I noticed about going through Akoma Health's page, like the Twitter and the Instagram, is as much as trying to welcome to Lagos, as much as you guys are trying to sell a service to people, you're also trying to create awareness about different, like, just not labeling something to be mental health, but just like stress, to say like there can be, if you're stressed, there's going to be like a creative block. You're not able to function properly. You're not able to maintain relationships. And this is from a personal point of view. Just reading through, obviously, because we have to do due diligence when we're inviting people on, just reading through the pages, reading the posts, looking at the answers that psychologists have given to like questions. It's just like a breath of fresh air for someone like me, because I come from a background where you have to suck everything up as a man. You don't have to speak. It's just on to the next one. Whatever it is, just charge it and move on to the next one. But just reading through the page and knowing like, okay, there's this kind of help out there. If I'm feeling like this, even though I don't know what it is, why I'm feeling like this, there's this help out there. I can actually, the things that I can do that can help me go from feeling like that to actually feeling better. So I must say big ups to you guys. It's really nice what you guys are doing, and
thank you.
I really hope everyone can tap into it and everyone can get, because I just feel, because there's a stigma to say mental health, there's that kind of stigma around it, but
it's a sensitive topic that everyone runs away from.
It's the same thing as like physical health at the end of the day. It's the same thing. So big ups to you guys. You guys are doing something I think is unique and very amazing in our community, and I hope everyone buys into it and everyone gets the help that they need.
Thank you so much. I'll give that feedback to our marketing team. They do a really great job with the graphics, the images.
It's really just simple, precise, and I'm able to like understand, and it's clear and concise. I really like it.
I'll take that. I'll take that compliment on behalf of the team. Thank you so much. But I think, you know, our position is always that we're very clear at the onset that we didn't want the language that we were using to be so heavy. We didn't want people.
How important is that?
I think it's super important, especially because we don't want people to feel that, you know, you need to be at the end of your rope,
right,
before seeking help. And I think part of how we remove the stigma of mental health is not just focusing on these sort of very, I mean, of course, challenges are on a spectrum, and I think part of how we remove the stigma around mental health is to not just focus on these sort of more extreme ends of that spectrum, where people might have more severe challenges, but also speak about it more in a more sort of casual, everyday sense, where, you know, we do so we're not always our best throughout the whole day. You know, our emotions are up and down, and sort of incorporating thinking about sort of wellness and mental health throughout the day, using, you know, tips that you might learn from sort of mindfulness throughout the day to sort of bring yourself sort of back to a medium, even though we're sort of up and down all the time. It's sort of very helpful in making sure that, like, not just anyone can access it, essentially.
Well, I'm learning a lot.
I'll just say, you mentioned something about you were in Lagos during lockdown.
Yes.
In terms of the cultural shift, because where did you grow up, if you don't mind me asking?
I was just saying at the very beginning, I grew up in Lagos, but I've been essentially between Lagos, London, and the UK like since secondary school.
Okay. So when you had that shift, and then you said you was looking for help in Nigeria or in Lagos, however. So how were you able to the transition? How what kind of help were you able to get for yourself, or what did you do in that period?
Yeah. So I think for me, I couldn't find so at that point in time when I was looking, I couldn't find like any one place that had I couldn't find a trusted source.
Okay.
And so what I ended up doing was I was using apps like Calm and Headspace.
Okay.
So part of what I was struggling with was like sleep. And so Calm was really helpful for me at that point in time.
Okay.
And so and that's just to say that when it comes to mental health, there are like a range of solutions. So of course it would have been great to have had someone to speak to. So I didn't get a formal sort of label of what I was dealing with at the time, because I didn't speak to a professional. I wasn't able to speak to a professional. But through thinking through the symptoms that I had and sort of doing a bit of research on my own, I was able to find Calm. I already had Headspace from earlier on. And so that was really helpful in terms of like listening to stories to like fall asleep.
I always listen to music, calming music.
Yeah. Sometimes I do like the rain.
You know the sleep podcast.
Just watch comedy shows, man. Just slap on a comedy show. Brooklyn 9/11.
That helps you sleep.
Yeah, it just puts you in a good mood, and you just forget. You get into like a bubble, like everything's all right, and then you knock out 9/11. What's this other one? The Office, the American one. Yeah,
classic.
Like things that are so unrealistic. Yeah, that's what I do.
So sorry to interrupt. We did ask some of our followers for some questions that they would like to
I think Melanie has the answers. Did by any chance did she share
them with you?
No, but it's okay.
we'd have to...
But we can ask you and get your take on that.
Sure.
However, before that, I want you to quickly just bring the conversation back to men and mental health and speaking up, and because we already know there's a stigma that, as a man, you got to suck it up and just move on and get it done. But what is Akoma doing to sensitize that it's okay as a man to speak up? Like, everyone needs help. It should not be, drilled down to gender,
Yeah. I mean, I think the first part of answering that question is to interrogate why people and men specifically sort of struggle to speak up.
Why do you think that is?
And I think that a lot of it comes down to and this is my own personal opinion through my own experience.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to not feeling like you're in a safe enough space to share your emotions.
Right.
And the consequences of being seen as someone that shares their emotion. And so that I know from my experience with a number of male friends that men do share emotions.
Yeah.
I think there's actually there's sort of a premium on which kind of emotions men are allowed to show. So like anger is one that people sort of expect men to show a lot, but anger is actually still an emotion, and men are actually emotional. And I think there's like a lot of stereotypes about men sort of claiming to be more logical than emotional, but that obviously doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But I think that when people feel that they're in a safe enough space to share their emotions and their feelings and what they're dealing with, I think those sort of walls sort of start to come down.
Right.
Because we are complicated people. We don't always have a perfect day. We are actually looking for connections and support. And even beyond Akoma, I think in my personal life, I make an effort to make my friends uncomfortable in the sense, and uncomfortable in the sense that, especially like my male friends, I'm always pushing them to say how they're feeling,
right?
And explain how they're
in
feeling.
that way, okay.
I hope that I'm someone that they can come to and speak to and feel like there isn't like a judge.
Because the thing is, men will gather, play games, do everything but talk about their feelings.
Yeah, and I think and I think that it's really important in those close friendships
right.
to be intentional about like going beyond the surface level stuff.
Right,
and
exactly.
Saying, we've sent each other memes all day, but how are you actually feeling?
How are you doing today?
And like and I make an effort to be intentional about doing that with some of my close friends, where like we've lolled back and forth.
Yeah.
But like I actually don't know what you've done this last week. I don't know what's gone on in your life, and it's really important to take those sort of breaks. So I think when it comes back to Akoma and how we sort of sensitize that and create those environments, I think there are two main things that we do. One is that we always make sure that people get some insight into our therapists and know that this is a safe space for them to share their feelings and opinions.
Yeah.
But I think the second thing is when it comes to our product, we give people the opportunities to be anonymous.
Right.
So you can hide your name, for example.
Sorry to interrupt you. So as I mentioned earlier on, that we were meant to have 2 of the founders, and we now have the second founder here with us, Melanie. Can she come in?
Yeah, Melanie can come.
Hi, Melanie.
How are you?
Well, thank you for joining the conversation with Lagos Meets London.
How are you all doing?
Well, thank you. How are you?
It's a little hot outside.
Yeah.
It's not just a little.
It's
bit.
very I know.
But are you not feeling like you're in Lagos?
Oh my god! Actually, no. I think it's worse because at least in Lagos, like if it's not a fan, if it's not like the way that you'll open the windows and the breeze will come in, if it's not AC, but you don't find AC here. Anyway.
Yeah, we don't do any.
The kind of breeze that blows in London is like hot breeze. It's not
Hot.
like in Lagos when you go out,
It's humid.
You get nice fresh air, but it's just hot.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us, Melanie.
Thanks for
You're also fine though. They're also fine. I'm just joking. Guys, we've got Melanie. Yeah, she is the CEO of Akoma. Like I mentioned, she's a co-founder. They're both founders. Melanie is big leagues. She went to Stanford. Yeah, the one you see on American series.
Yeah.
The Stanford. Yeah. Melanie, thank you very much for joining us once again.
And just at the beginning, Nia was saying that you were in uni doing your PhD? MBA, sorry. MBA, sorry.
Don't let my parents hear
listen,
that.
I'm
Did you grow up in America?
No, I grew up between here and Lagos.
Oh,
wow.
really?
Yeah,
so did you like American football or basketball? Since when you're doing your MBA in Stanford, right? Or you don't like any of them?
No, I do. So I'm biased because my husband's family is they're really into American football. They're from the South.
Mm.
So like I really enjoy being in the crowd at an American football game because it's just so fun.
Yeah.
But there's a lot fewer people in the basketball league, so it's a lot easier to follow people that you love.
Yeah.
So I love LeBron James.
All right.
I love Russell Westbrook. There's, so I love the sport of American football, but I prefer basketballers.
So you like basketball?
No.
You're just being diplomatic because of your husband and his family. You like basketball. Yeah. Melanie was just speaking about before joining us, we're speaking about the stigma around Black men being able to express themselves when it comes to things that are below the surface level, just like being able to talk about genuine feeling. How are you actually feeling? How did this affect you? So that's what we're just discussing about. And Nee was trying to tell us how I feel it's very important as being your target audience as a Black man like me to be able to sensitize to say, okay, it's actually okay to speak about it. If you feel like you need to speak to someone about it, it's actually okay. Don't let the stigma just make you shy away from speaking about stuff like that,
or seeking 100%. Help even.
100%.
So for me, I'll just speak. So just to say, you spoke about how Akoma for him personally, how he's able to speak to his friends and just letting them know it's a safe space. Another thing I'd like to...
He used the word make them uncomfortable.
I mean, it is uncomfortable. I've had my friend ask me before to say, how are you actually feeling when I was going through a breakup? I was like, why are you asking me this? Like, it's all this for? You're making me very uncomfortable right now. Yeah. Are you asking me all of this?
It's all love.
So I feel it stems from our parents' generation, how the kind of parenting they were able to pass on to us. So I also feel that plays a role in the kind of parenting you also got.
It's the first experience of love.
Yeah. That it also plays a role. So for me, not until now, there's awareness about it, about men being able to speak up. I went from being able to say to my mom and my dad, like, I love you, like, not just like expressing. So that's when, until then, I was able to start expressing myself to my friends and say, oh, but really, I'm actually not fine. So I had to break that barrier to say, hey, dad, I love you. Like, after speaking, mom, I love you. So I had to break that barrier for me to now be able to actually speak to other people about how I'm feeling. Yeah. So what do you think, Melanie, about, like, what's Akoma doing to create that awareness to say, man, it's all right to,
I mean, there's so much about our culture that doesn't allow for much emotion. That's at least to start off with. And fundamentally, we as one company with limited resources will not change a culture. But what we can do is have an understanding within which we can operate and we can function. So, for an example, as you mentioned, even just being able to tell your parents you love them, or even, I just had a really interesting conversation with someone this morning over breakfast around not even realizing that they're supposed to like their partners as a man, like feeling like they're supposed to look after or provide for or protect, but not actually remembering to like them as a fundamental, because maybe that's not what they saw for their parents or for other people's parents. And so what we're really speaking to is we're using a language that people understand. We're using language of stress. We're using language of pressure. We're using language of, things that generally speaking we understand. Like, it's not a good feeling to understand that like someone's been laid off at work. It's not a good feeling to see your life change because someone passed away around, someone. It's not a good feeling to be, unfortunately, in many cases, diagnosed with a chronic disease. And those are the kind of things that we help people understand, that like, you just don't have to deal with that on your own. You don't have to walk alone when it comes to many of these things that life hands us. So let us be here for you. Let's support you in how you manage your feelings through these scenarios, and how you communicate, and how you learn to essentially not have this something that festers inside your body. Because while it's easy to say that person needs to see a therapist, it's not as easy for people to recognize for themselves that I am a candidate for this thing, because in this moment in time, I need more help than what the resources I naturally have around me. So that's a very kind of roundabout way of saying that we're using a language that people already know and trying to meet them where they are.
For the UK man, them stop charging it. Speak to someone. I normally we just say just charge it, man. Just charge it. Like, I'll charge it and I'll move on my life. Stop charging it. It will fester in you.
Speaking of using languages and whatnot, that people will understand, we asked some of our followers some questions, and we want to get your take on them, your responses. So I have a question here, and the question is: a male confided in his girlfriend about having some mental health issues because she didn't know how to deal with it, because these are things that people don't really talk about, and to support him through that phase, they ended up breaking up. How would you advise both of them?
Sorry, I think Amina sent like
let's
proper, like
just talk
professional.
about it. I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, as easy as it, not easy, but we can talk very openly about how men don't typically express themselves and how typically they go through mental health challenges. Also, as women, I recently got married. I'm learning so much about myself in terms of, ways that I realize that how I grew up affects how I know to love someone. And he grew up in a different world where he learned to love someone differently. And that might be very strange to me as well.
Yeah.
And so it's not her fault that she couldn't be sensitive to his needs at that time.
Right.
She operated within her own knowledge and understanding.
Right.
And this is why your partner can't actually be your everything. They're there for some parts of your life and really important parts of your life. But this is also why you often need someone with the qualifications to deal with what you're going through.
Someone such as Akoma.
Yeah. And so you need someone that can understand, somebody that can uphold you, someone that can, it's really hard working through your problems. It really is. Is it like, I don't know if any of you watched Creed 3. I just watched Creed 3.
It, yes.
Yeah. And not to ruin the storyline, but but essentially you go through things to come out better.
Yeah.
And likewise, through the therapy process, if you stay committed and you're really dealing with something, sometimes it might not feel good every time. And you will have your psychologist there for you for that. But it's unfair, actually, to put that all on the woman.
Burden, yeah.
However, it's also understood that if you love someone, you don't want to cause them pain.
Right.
And so I don't think that, while it wasn't her intention, I don't think, and I hope not to make him feel hurt, but she actually couldn't, the expectation of her being his psychologist is almost too lofty of a thing to expect from her.
Yeah.
So my advice to him is that he should seek the true help that he needs. And I hope he's feeling better now about it. But it doesn't mean that the feelings or the fundamental things that caused him to get to that place, or the cycles, the negative cycles or the triggers may not still be there, and that should be worked on. But separately, from her side, I think she also could go to, therapy and see a psychologist to understand like how she could best support someone, whether it's an emotional intelligence or whether it's unlocking certain, conclusions she might also even have about men having feelings and expressing themselves. There's something there for sure. And it's something for them to both speak to their therapist separately and maybe come together and speak to their therapist about, so they can speak openly about how these things made them feel.
So the breakup was not the solution? No.
It may not have been, but there may have been other things like, and maybe it was a timing thing, because these are really big things to work out.
Yeah, definitely.
But you never know, they may end up getting back together, realizing that person was there for the really important parts, and then end up, realizing maybe it was more than these things. I mean, there's so much more to it.
Say, for example, I'm in a relationship with a girl and I know like I need help, and obviously I go off on my own to seek help for myself without letting my partner know. Would you guys say that's right? Or do I still need to let my partner be in the know to say, this is what I'm dealing with right now, but I've actually seek help and I'm seeing someone? Or just
do you think we need to let our partners know when we're seeking these help?
I think that, again, this is just my personal opinion. But I think that we should do those things when we're ready to bring people in.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that it's important to recognize that you need support. And I think it's great that you're taking that initiative and that first step to seek help on your own. But I don't think that people should feel pressured to bring people in if they're not ready. And they should bring people in their own time. I think part of being in a loving relationship is understanding that people's needs change. Yeah. And what you need to do to support someone is not always the same. And people might need their space and might need time to sort of bring you in. That being said, I do think that it can be helpful in terms of your progress to bring in a loved one. Yeah. But I think you should do that when you feel comfortable and ready.
Yeah.
100%.
Guys, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. We are available on all audio and streaming platforms. I know in Lagos people say data, but you can listen on Spotify. It's just like one episode will just cost you like 60 MB, and this is a very important conversation that you actually need to listen to.
Not even just that, like even with our Instagram comments, we want to like talk with you guys, like discuss with us, let us know what you want to hear from us. We're talking with you guys, don't you want to talk with us? So yeah.
You guys are rude.
But yeah, any luck on
I think before it comes up, I'll say
what's the second question
we got was coping mechanisms. Are they good or bad advice?
So we've we talk about this often, just in the terms of there are healthy ones and there are not so healthy ones. Absolutely. It's a very simple question. Yeah. Unhealthy ones are what we call maladaptive in the field of psychology. And what that means is if naturally every single time you're stressed, your automatic reaction is to smoke weed or like just some form of substance, that is a maladaptive behavior, because it's something that continues to cause further like potential negative behavior, or is not something that necessarily uplifts you in a better way. So what is a positive behavior to exhibit is, I'm stressed, I have tension, let me go to the gym because this is going to produce endorphins for me and isn't going to cause me to potentially cause harm to myself in another way, in an indirect way or anything like that. Or it could be, sometimes a sign of depression is, you might have your sex drive might increase like quite substantially. And what that means is like, okay, fair enough if you're in a situation where that's not causing harm to someone or yourself, but fair enough. But there are situations where you could cause yourself extra drama and stress, or whatever else, or, I don't know, health conditions. Yeah. And I'm not here to say sex is bad or anything, but it's just to say that like, there are ways that you can cope, and it could be a one-off, but that one-off could have detrimental effects. And so what you want to try and make sure you discipline yourself to do, as hard as that is, especially if you're really, really going through it, is to try and take on healthy habits and actually get ahead of it by, I know myself, for example, like we're founders, life can be really, really hard. Yeah. We have really hard days. And sometimes you start to question and doubt I know that I can start to question and doubt myself. And the only thing that I can do to give myself a leg up in preventing and avoiding those situations where it can be really detrimental and harder to come out from, I try and make sure that I'm exercising more often these days. Mm-hmm. I try and make sure I regularly schedule time to be with myself. I regularly schedule time to catch up with my friends and like make sure that there's a life outside of my work and my home. Mm-hmm. I try my best to eat well. That's
very important.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know the importance of that.
Yeah. Like, I think I saw something the other day that said you fill up your Mercedes with, is it 93 unleaded?
Oh, I've not seen that.
Yeah. I saw something that said you fill up your Mercedes with the best version of petrol. Mm-hmm. But your car is replaceable. Your body is not replaceable, mm-hmm. and you're not fueling it with the best things that you could fuel it with.
Yeah, a lot of people feel shit about themselves, but it's not. They just don't want to admit it because there's no way you're putting all this rubbish into your body and you're telling me you actually feel nice about yourself. Good about
That's
not possible. So it's rightfully, like you said, sometimes people neglect the part where you have to. Because I notice, for me personally, when I eat, if I'm having like a period where I'm just eating like takeout, like it just makes me really sad. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, honestly.
But some could say that it's a good pick me up, eating takeout.
Short term.
I mean,
short term.
Yeah, exactly. Short term. It's just the same way I know people. Another thing I do personally is if things are getting stressful, I just take it all day where I'm switch off my phone. I'm just in bed the whole day, and then the next day I'm re-energized and I'm good to go. I don't know if that's a good fix or at the end of the day you need to speak to someone or something. But like, when it comes to coping mechanisms, that's something that I do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all in moderation too, right?
Because
if
it's not like I'm having one day off. I'm not doing anything every week. It's like maybe I'll have just one day like every 3 months, like or maybe one day every 2 months kind of thing. Yeah.
But what I mean by that is even like, you have a partner. We've talked about like relationships now. You have your partner and then you just ghost your partner for like 1 week. Imagine some people do things like that though. So that's what I mean by in moderation, because to some extent you start to become responsible for other people. Mm-hmm. But I even just want to double down on that because in the UK, I actually personally experience winter depression, especially when I lived in the UK.
That's a thing.
Because in winter I was working 9 to 5 more often longer, and then you go to work, it's dark. You leave work, it's dark. Maybe you went outside for lunch, it might still have been dark and raining and whatever. And you're thinking, especially those of us that like are immigrants, you're just thinking like, why did I do this to myself? Like my family at home, everything that's sad just comes to mind in winter.
The winters become so long.
I had a male friend that's migrated from Nigeria tell me about this, and I used to be like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
But it's an actual thing.
It really is.
Like coming from a country where it's always bright to then living in a country where it's dark when you wake up, you go to sleep, it's dark, you leave the house, it's dark. It's a thing. And
I said, that's literally what I said to him, because my brother normally, you could just move to the UK for uni, like postgraduate studies. And I was saying to him, like, you just notice 3-4 months have passed by. Don't do that. Don't just stay indoor. Go to the gym, go football.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just try. I know it's very cold. You don't want to go outside, but you just find out you're in the house for long periods, like 4 months.
Not seeing anybody. You don't know your neighbors.
That's what I said to him. Try go football, go gym. Just try and push yourself to do something. I know it's cold, but
doing that, can that be detrimental to your mental health?
In terms of forcing yourself outside?
Yeah. No, being indoors and locking yourself away from.
For sure.
Right. Okay.
Because it's interesting because that's also could be a sign of depression. Like when you know in yourself, I haven't seen someone for 2 months or a month. Let's even say a week. I haven't seen someone for a week, and you don't notice when it creeps up on you.
Right.
Just all of a sudden, every time you are in a situation where someone invites you out, you don't want to go. And like, you just don't, like, all small things that you once found joy in, you don't want to do.
Right.
And that's like, can be the first step, I mean.
Yeah, so I think I think I also have like a compliment to that answer, because I think naturally I do tend to like want to be at home a lot.
Right.
Because I don't like to sort of
homebody. Yeah.
Okay, fine. But I mean, so for me, I think there's like a question so when I find myself being alone for too long, there's a question that I ask myself. I say to myself, am I doing this because I need to like recharge and like refuel so that I'm more energetic and more active when I see people, or am I running away from people?
You're avoiding people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest with myself,
and what usually is the answer?
So it depends, actually. It depends. So like, you know, sometimes, you know, so we spent the last week sort of going around meeting a lot of people, which has been so much fun and great. But I know that I also need time to just be alone and just to collect my thoughts.
You time.
But again, as Melanie said, you know, when you find yourself, you know, at home for extended periods, not doing things that you would normally do, staying in bed all day long, turning off your phone, going on airplane mode. Don't all those things. Don't know.
When I wake up, it's like, maybe I wake up like at 9 a.m. It's like, yes, today's the day. I ain't doing shit. I ain't doing fuck all. Phone's on airplane mode. Maybe just if I'm seeing someone, just message them. Hi, good morning. So that's out of the way. Put the phone on airplane mode. Put on Netflix. Just watch a comedy series for the whole day and just eat cereal.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to find those like small things you can do to bring yourself out of that place.
Yeah.
So even if it's just, you know, going out to like a balcony for like a second and just standing in the sun, it's such a big first step that sort of is a catalyst for sort of bigger changes throughout the day.
Yeah. I think this brings us right nicely into the second segment, right?
Yeah, Alice got to go back to work.